Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining today to take part in this presentation. My name is Hannah Gross, and I am a senior biology and criminology student here at Chatham. Today, I would like to discuss a topic that I have spent some time researching for my postmodern China digital storytelling class. My topic is centered around the 2008 Olympics that took place in Beijing. All viewpoints expressed in this presentation are from my own analysis, and all conclusions I draw are based off of material supplied from reliable sources. Before we get started, I would like to give a brief overview of the content to set the stage for what we are about to delve into. There are 5 primary controversies associated with the Olympics in Beijing that I will be covering in detail. I will be going over how these controversies affected China on a larger scale, and then I will be connecting these controversies to 2 major questions I have about the Olympics. To conclude, I address possible answers to these questions and how Americans are affected. I look forward to your feedback in this matter, especially since Beijing will be hosting the Olympics yet again in 2022. Members of my class who are watching this presentation will know that we have discussed the Olympics at 2 points in the course. Specifically, Mitter's text includes an excerpt about this monumental event in modern Chinese history. Additionally, we saw from the Ai Weiwei documentary Never Sorry how he was specifically involved in the Olympics and his feelings regarding the Games. He was the primary designer for the Bird's Nest Stadium, but he later regretted completing the project. Ai Weiwei's ties to the Olympics introduced us to our first major controversy that surrounded the Games, which was the displacement of citizens from Beijing. From what can be found online, there were some discrepancies in the exact number of citizens that were displaced. However, the most common number that I was able to locate cited that 1.25 million Chinese citizens were told to leave their homes to make way for construction of the grounds and structures needed to accommodate the Games. In one report, it stated that many Chinese citizens were not even told when they were going to be evicted, and in most cases, they were not compensated for their land at all. However, as always, there was some rebuttal to this report from the government. Officials, in response to this, put out a contrasting report that described how all citizens were compensated, and that the number given by many reports was, in fact, incorrect, and only several thousand people were displaced. So, what was correct? What is incorrect? We may not ever know. But even after the Games ended, this still left a considerable amount of people unable to return to their homes since their buildings were demolished. Will there be displacement problems for the next Games in 2022? This is something the Chinese government will absolutely have to consider, since it was one of the controversies that turned a negative light towards the country itself. When I did research online, a consistent topic that came up in articles again and again was the cost of the bird's nest. It takes $11 million to maintain yearly and is quite vacant. Many people consider it a museum piece that was once the pride of China. The 90,000-seat stadium was the symbol for the competition in 2008, but now is no more than a place for eroded memories. Today, the area around the stadium is desolate and has not really been used for much else except as a reminder of the $480 million it took to build the arena in the first place. The arena, which is also pictured here against a dense fog, highlights another major issue in Beijing. The city experiences a significant air pollution problem. Many other countries that were sending participants to Beijing voiced their concern, citing that it would be dangerous for athletes to be breathing in air that could change the quality of their performance or damage their lungs. So, China launched 20 different programs in response to this, with a combined cost of over $12 billion to immediately address the environmental and air quality standards. This was a massive effort to ensure the safety of the athletes and to show the world that China was serious about finding fast, reliable remedies to its air pollution problem. I would also like to mention, as an aside, that as soon as international concerns were voiced and brought into the equation, China instantly tried to reassure them by proposing solutions, but did not engage any of these projects before the Olympics for the safety of their own people. Interesting. On another front, whenever China was first announced as the host nation, it made promises that the tight grip on censorship would be loosened during the broadcasting of the games so that journalists could report accurately from Beijing. However, this turned out not to be the case, and later many of the rules and regulations around censorship that were supposed to be adjusted were not. The sites that journalists were able to access were only those that pertained to the Olympics themselves. All reports about displacement and housing violations were not able to be accessed, which received considerable backlash. The very stringent set of censorship laws has been a target for media outlets for some time. Hopefully, by 2022, some of these laws will have evolved to allow for a more wholesome coverage of the Games. The women's gymnastics team also faced immense scrutiny for appearing too young to compete. The Olympic requirements state that athletes must be, at the time of competition, a minimum of 16 years of age. An alleged internet hacker found evidence that athletes on the team had lied about their age in order to compete, and he sent the information to the New York Times. Though an extensive review by the Olympic Committee found this not to be true, this provoked a worldwide scandal as to the real age of the athletes. Even though they all went home with gold medals, many people today are still skeptical. So now that we have learned about the controversies that surrounded China during this period, the next step I want to take is to think about what lasting effects the Games had on this country. And to do this, I have prompted two overarching questions. The first is, why were the Beijing Olympics so monumental for China? And secondly, did the Games impact China on a socio-cultural scale? To host the Olympics is a huge moment for any country because the international spotlight is on them. China was given a chance to show itself as an equal compared to other prosperous nations in the world. The Olympic Games is the world's largest sporting event, and at the time, it was China's turn to present itself as a world superpower. This is why the Olympics were such an important event. China was at the center of the international stage. The Olympics generates billions of spectators, so it was crucial for the country to demonstrate itself as a technologically advanced, modern, and gracious host. China, as we have learned, has had a very turbulent past, so the Olympics was a way for it to show the world that it can stand on its own 2 feet as a nation and show that it has grown from its past into a new country that is worthy of recognition. China will have, as I mentioned, another opportunity to demonstrate itself as a worthy host in 2022. Hopefully, China has recognized all of the controversies it had to deal with in 2008 and used that knowledge to better prepare itself and its people the second time around, especially when it comes to housing and finding alternative places for people to live in the wake of construction. So, did the Games impact China? Absolutely yes, is the answer. Despite the controversies, it brought lots of tourism to Beijing and installed new urban technology that is still being used today. For example, to prepare for the Games, a new transportation system was set in place as well as an improved airport network. The Olympics majorly raised the profile of China as a country and as a whole promoted support of sports teams. This altogether promoted togetherness and allowed the Chinese people to feel that they had left their mark on the rest of the world, especially on the sports front. Unification and solidarity are two words that really stand out to me that identify with the 2008 Olympics. But for as many jobs that were created because of the Olympics, China's economy also took a hard hit. Billions of dollars went into the event to create massive stadiums, and both short and long-term investments had to be made. The country spent a lot of money preparing for the Games, and there were numerous studies I found online that related the economic impact the Games had on China. As big as an event as the Olympics are, not only does it reach social realms and larger society, but it also dramatically affects the economy and how much the nation can spend as a whole. But why should we here in America care about something that is happening overseas in another country? Well, first off, we should always be aware of what is happening globally so that we can understand what is going on our planet. Additionally, since we are sending American athletes to participate, it is crucial that we know something about the country that we are sending them to. While our athletes are overseas, they are also representatives for our home country. And while we visit other countries, it is important to set a good example even in the wake of controversy. It is important for everyone internationally, too, to be aware of what is happening in other countries that are under such a massive spotlight so that issues can be readily addressed by the host nation. When it comes to the Olympics, every country directly plays a part, not just the host. My references are on the next two slides. And I would like to thank you for watching and hope that you have learned something new in this presentation about China, the Olympics, and how we can possibly learn from the past to better ourselves for the future, especially since we will be seeing Beijing in the near future in the Olympic Games of 2022. Thanks again.